The pack banished her for saving a baby, unaware. It was the Alpha King's pup. Seraphina Voss had learned, very early in life, that the best thing she could do was stay out of the way. She was not a warrior. She was not a ranked female with a powerful wolf inside her chest. She was an Omega, the lowest rank inside Ashcroft Pack, and the only thing that kept her useful to the people around her was her hands. Healing hands. Quiet hands that knew how to close wounds and bring down fevers and sit beside sick children through the long hours of the night without complaint. She never complained. There was no point. No one was listening. On the night everything changed, Sarah had finished a 12-hour shift in the pack infirmary. Her back ached. Her feet were sore. She had eaten nothing since morning, because the kitchen staff had already packed away the food by the time she was released, and no one had thought to leave anything behind for her. She was used to this. She picked up her worn coat from the hook by the door, pulled it around her shoulders, and walked out into the cold night air. She always took the forest path home. It was longer, but it was quieter. The main road through the pack meant walking past groups of higher-ranked wolves who found small entertainments in reminding her of her place. The forest asked nothing of her. She liked that. The trees were dark and close together, the ground frozen beneath her boots. She walked with her head down, thinking about nothing in particular, listening to the wind move through the branches above her. Then she heard it. It was small, so small she almost missed it, a thin, broken cry, barely above a whisper, coming from somewhere to her left. She stopped, she waited. There it was again. Not an animal, something smaller than an animal, something that needed help in a way that made her chest tighten before her mind had even caught up. She pushed through the undergrowth and found him between the roots of a large oak tree. A baby. A tiny, red-faced baby, wrapped in a thick blanket, crying, with the desperate energy of someone who had been crying for a very long time and was beginning to run out of strength. The blanket was fine, too fine for these woods, a deep blue cloth with silver thread along the edges, but the baby inside it was cold, far too cold. Sarah did not stop to think. She dropped to her knees, unwrapped enough of the blanket to press the child against the warmth of her own chest, and wrapped her coat around both of them. She could feel it immediately, the dangerous chill in his small body, the way his skin had lost its color. She used the only thing she had, the quiet, healing warmth that lived in her hands, and she pushed it into him, slowly and carefully, the way she had learned to do for sick pack members who never thanked her for it. The baby stopped crying. He looked up at her with enormous gray eyes, blinking slowly, as if he could not quite decide what she was. "I've got you," she told him. "You're all right." She did not know, standing in that frozen forest with someone else's child pressed against her heart, that those words were about to cost her everything she had. Elder Mordak was standing at the pack border when she arrived. He was a tall man with sharp eyes and a way of holding his body that made every room feel smaller. He had never liked Sarah. She was never entirely sure why. She suspected it was simply that she existed in a way that was inconvenient for him, and men like Mordak did not enjoy inconvenience. He saw the baby. He saw the silver-threaded blanket. His face changed in a way she had never seen before. Not anger, but something beneath anger. Something that looked like fear wearing a different face. He called the pack. By the time the sun rose, Sarah was standing in the center of the assembly clearing, with 100 wolves around her and a child on her chest, and no one willing to meet her eyes. Elder Mordak spoke for 20 minutes. He talked about the forbidden border zone, about the danger of drawing attention from outside the pack, about the recklessness of a low-ranked female who had gone where she did not belong and returned with something that could bring consequences down on all of them. He never asked her what had happened. He never gave her the floor. The vote took less than a minute. Luna Vesa made it official. The pack bond, the invisible thread that connected her to every person in this territory, the only sense of belonging she had ever known, was cut. It felt like something physical, like a sound that was there and then was not, leaving a silence so complete it pressed against the inside of her ears. Sarah stood very straight. She did not cry. She had promised herself, a long time ago, that she would not give them that. Kira reached her for just a moment, her only friend, her only warmth inside this pack, and pushed a small bag into her free hand. Food, a few coins, a scarf. Then Kira was pulled away by Vessa's hand on her shoulder, and Sarah was alone at the edge of the territory, with the cold morning air against her face, and a baby who did not yet know that she had nowhere to go. She adjusted her hold on him and walked. She walked for 2 days. She did not have a destination. Pack Omegas did not have networks beyond their territory. She had no family outside Ashcroft, no friends in neighboring packs, no map for a life that existed outside the only structure she had ever known. She followed roads that moved away from the territory and trusted that something would appear when she needed it. She bought goat's milk from a farmhouse at the edge of a human village, using almost the last of Kira's coins. She fed the baby carefully, spoke to him quietly, and told him small things, about the trees they passed, about the color of the morning sky, about nothing important at all. She did not know his name. She called him Little Root, privately, because she had found him between tree roots, and because it seemed right to call him something. He watched her face when she talked. That gray gaze, too steady, too old for his age, followed her constantly, as if she were the most interesting thing in the world. She found, to her own surprise, that she did not mind. On the 3rd morning, they found her. She heard the horses first. Then she turned and saw the riders emerging from the tree line, 5 of them, dressed in dark leather armor, with a silver crest on the chest. The same crest that was stitched into the baby's blanket. She looked at it, and then looked at them, and understood immediately. She did not run. Running would have been dishonest, and Sarah had never been dishonest in her life. The man at the front swung down from his horse. He was broad and serious, with a scar along his jaw and eyes that were currently going through several complicated emotions at once. He looked at her. He looked at the baby. He looked at her again. "Is the child hurt?" he asked. "No," she said. "He had a temperature drop on the 2nd night, but I brought it back. He is stable. He has been eating well." The man stared at her. She realized he had expected something different. A struggle, maybe. Excuses. She had simply answered his question. "I will need to take him," he said carefully. "Of course," she said. She adjusted Little Root one more time, and then held him out. But before she let go, she said, "He settles on the left side. He does not like loud sounds close to his ears. I used chamomile oil at his wrists the 2nd night, and it helped. Do not let him get cold again." The soldier took the child with both hands and held him like he was made of glass. Sarah picked up her empty bag, nodded once, and turned to walk away. "Stop." The voice came from behind her, not the soldier's voice. This one was different, lower, and quieter, and somehow larger than the space it came from. She stopped. She turned. He had come from further back in the tree line, on a black horse that moved without sound. He was tall, very tall, with dark hair and a face that had the particular look of someone who had forgotten, a long time ago, what it felt like to be off guard. His eyes were pale. They landed on her and stayed there with a kind of intensity that made her feel briefly like she was being read. He looked at the baby in his soldier's arms. Something moved across his face. Fast, controlled, but she caught it. She was good at catching things other people tried to hide. Then he looked back at her. "You saved my son," he said. She thought about this for a moment. "Someone had to," she said. He came down from his horse. He stood in front of her and kept looking at her in that careful, unblinking way, and she stood still and looked back, because she had nothing to hide and nowhere urgent to be. "Where are you going?" he asked. She considered the honest answer. "I don't know," she said. "Where is your pack?" "I don't have one anymore." He was quiet for a moment. "Come with me," he said. It was not a question. It was not quite an order either. It was the statement of a man who had made a decision and saw no reason to frame it as anything else. Sarah looked at the road behind her, which led nowhere she could name, and then she looked at the child, at Little Root, who was looking back at her from the soldier's arms with those old gray eyes, and she went. The Sovereign Keep was the largest building she had ever seen. It rose from the landscape like something that had decided to exist there and dared the world to argue. Inside, it was warm and well lit, and full of people who looked at her with expressions ranging from confusion to barely concealed suspicion. She paid them little attention. She had spent her whole life being looked at the wrong way by people. She was used to it. His name was Calum. She learned this not from him directly, but from the way everyone around him spoke, carefully, precisely, with the particular tension of people who were always aware of being observed. He was the Alpha King, the highest authority on the continent, the man whose bloodline every pack underneath him was connected to through the web of wolf hierarchy. She thought about this, and then thought about Little Root, and then decided it explained the silver thread on the blanket. She was given rooms near the nursery. She did not ask why. She assumed it made sense. She had been caring for the baby, and the baby knew her, and that was practical. She settled into the rooms with her empty bag and her worn coat and her 2 remaining coins, and felt, for the first time in 3 days, that she was allowed to sit down. She went to the nursery that first evening because she wanted to make sure the baby had been settled correctly. She was aware this was not her business anymore. She went anyway. He was there, Calum, standing by the crib, looking down at his son with an expression on his face that he would never have allowed in a room full of people. Sarah stopped in the doorway. She almost left. But Little Root made a sound, and Calum looked up, and the moment to leave had passed. She came in. She checked the baby the way she always did. Temperature at the forehead, color of the skin, steadiness of the breathing. Everything was fine. She arranged the blanket. She hummed quietly. A low and wordless sound she had discovered settled him, and the baby's eyes drifted closed. When she looked up, Calum was watching her. "You do that without thinking," he said quietly. "I've always been good with sick things," she said. "Small things. Things that need careful handling." He was quiet for a moment. Then, and she could tell this was not something he did often, offering words without a specific purpose. He said, "His mother died 8 months ago." She looked at him. "I'm sorry," she said. Not as a formality. She meant it. "She shouldn't have," he said. "We found out recently that it wasn't natural. Someone chose it." He said this the way people said things they had not yet fully decided how to feel about. Flatly, keeping the weight of it at arm's length. Sarah did not say anything. She simply listened, which was the thing she had always been best at, and Calum spoke in fragments, not a man unburdening himself, but a man discovering what was true as he said it aloud to a person who had no reason to use it against him. When he stopped, she told him about the banishment. Briefly, plainly, without anger. She told him she had been holding his son at the time of the vote, and had thought, briefly, that there was something almost amusing about that. He did not find it amusing. He looked at her for a long time without speaking. "You lost everything for keeping him alive," he said. "I lost things that were already barely mine," she said. "Brute, it's not the same as losing everything." He considered her for a long moment. Something in his expression shifted, not softened exactly, but adjusted, like a door opening 1 inch. He left that night without saying anything more, but he came back the next evening, and the one after that. 1 week later, she was in the nursery, with her book open in her lap, and the lamp turned low when he appeared in the doorway. He came all the way in this time. He took the chair across the crib from hers. He said nothing. She said nothing. The baby slept between them. After a while, she looked up from her book and found him already looking at her. "Why did you go to Ashcroft?" she asked. She had heard about it from a kitchen maid, that he had traveled there himself and stood in front of the entire pack and said things that the pack was apparently still discussing. "Because it was right," he said. She gave him a long look. "That's not enough reason for a king to cross 3 territories with 12 armed men." He held her gaze. "No," he said, "it isn't." She closed her book. Outside the window, the first snow of the season was beginning to fall. Inside, it was warm and quiet. The baby breathed steadily between them, small and safe, entirely unaware that his existence had rearranged the lives of everyone in the room. Sarah looked at Calum. He was still watching her, steady, unguarded in a way she had not seen him be with anyone else. She thought about what it meant to be seen by someone like him. She thought about what it cost. She thought about the road she had been walking 3 days ago with an empty bag and nowhere to go. Then she stopped thinking and simply stayed, present, quiet, exactly where she was. For the first time in her life, that felt like enough.